Welcome to another episode of the Next Fix podcast. We have Karoline here, Karoline Fischer. She's a true professional out there helping people, boots to ground. She's in the trenches seeing people that need help, and she's doing so in a fascinating way, I might add. She's really working on our subconscious and how that is intertwined with our problems and our traumas, and then of course our healing and our recovery. And so this is a very important episode. And I want to say, first of all, thank you so much, Karoline, for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for introducing me so beautifully.
Yeah, this is interesting. It's going to be slightly different because she doesn't have what we typically go over is like the traditional rock bottom war stories and things of that nature, because she's had a professional approach to what we typically talk about. So this is a different vantage point, and I think we're going to take full advantage of it because it's fascinating, and I believe wholeheartedly that this is a great way to approach our addictions and our struggles with substance abuse, and then of course, eventually getting traction in recovery. So my first question, Karoline, is what exactly is it, or how do you incorporate the subconscious? And I believe it's hypnosis, but just clarify to everybody listening, what exactly are the tools that you bring to the table?
Mm-hmm. So I am a hypnotherapist, an RTT hypnotherapist. RTT has been coined and created by Marissa Peer. So it's a specific form of hypnotherapy that's the R stands for rapid. So it's really, rapid. And often in therapy, people think, rapid is negative because then it can't be deep. But that is definitely not the case. Like, it's very as rapid as can be, right? But really going deep and going to the root of the issue. And yeah, that's what I do. And I don't want to the rock bottom before, right? Yes, I have not been addicted to alcohol or drugs, but I've definitely experienced rock bottoms where, there were other things involved. Right. I was kind of like holding on to or addicted to, right? Certain habits that were super unhealthy for me. And I'm not trying to compare. Just
of course.
Paint myself more as a human being also. Yes, I am.
Of course.
But of course, and you never took that from me, but I just want to also say that because what brought me to working with what I do now is really my own story.
Okay. Well, then, hey, now we want to know. You've got to share with us a little bit about this story. And I wasn't trying to steal. I guess I was just going off of a lot of the, I don't want to say standard either, but what I have done on the show, a lot of the people that are in the recovery from alcohol and then of drugs specifically, we all have a similar, I call it the rough and tumbled family of addicts and substance abuse survivors, if you will. Mm-hmm. You don't fit that mold. However, you've admitted that that there were some serious issues. And so if you don't mind, let us know what brought you into this field to get you focused on doing good by all of us.
Yeah, I would love to. So, and again, we chatted shortly before. I wasn't even aware, I'm fine, because I know I'm coming from a professional perspective on your show. But then I was if I want to listen to a professional, I kind of want to know a little bit also that they're a human being. I personally, right? Others might not need that, especially because I came into this field, right? I studied medicine, but then I always wanted to work more on that level, on the so-called alternative way of healing, right? I don't know, alternative to Western medicine, I guess. But what brought me really is I grew up really right? I'm assuming, or I see in my practice, there's a lot of people with addiction grow up with that, right? I know, not everyone, but with emotional neglect and, no space for any emotions, right? Nobody could hold any emotions, right? It was really emotionally dead, and then put downs and really abusive language. So And that is obviously harming, right? And
Right.
I just, wanted to get away. And then I really got far away. I moved to another continent. And obviously it follows you, right? Because you always take yourself. And then I started working and I started training, on that level because I wanted. And then once I discovered methods to work with yourself or with others on a level, right? That's when the needle was moving for me. Because before I would always have a lot of awareness and people would say, oh, you have so much awareness. Great. Wow. Amazing. And I felt like even more by that feedback. Oh, I was shortly before like enlightenment, right? But it was.
So let me ask you real quick. So you said the needle was moving for you. Is this your own personal growth and development? Is that what that your personal needle, not the professional or educational, but like internally, your intrinsic needle is moving forward. And you feel this because, and then you mentioned like for the first time in a long time. So, and so just so I could sum it up here. So, where are you from?
I'm from Austria originally.
Austria. So you're in Austria, and you are short on emotional expression. You're short on compassion. You're short on a lot of emotional value in obviously the household, the home. Am I right?
It really like I was short of a home. A home I could really come home to, and I think that's often not. Again, I don't want to generalize, but I see that in a lot of my clients with addiction. That's really the issue, that at one point you need to just find that home inside of you, right? Because that home has to be created by you if it hasn't been created for you when younger, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but coming back, right, the needle was moving in terms of, right, before I would understand my behaviors and why I did something, and again, so much awareness, but I could not exert it in my life, right? I could not live. It was always like, kind of like you think that, you know that, but you can't live it. And then once I started working with the subconscious, something changed in my body, right? And that, in my opinion, then it becomes real for me, right? Because in our brain, we can always, we do always censor, right? And I can think differently. Tomorrow I might want to go for a run, and then tomorrow comes and I say, it's better not to. And I find reasons that it's really better not to, right? So the body really keeps the score, right? Most of us know this book, and I think that's such a great quote for me, because it's really, once you feel it in your body, once you transform stuff in your body, once you feel things in your body that you have never been able to feel before, right? And once you feel it, you have access to it again, right? Because there's muscle memory, there's also emotional memory, psychological memory, right? So I meant with the needle was moving. Then I realized, whoa, my life is changing. And then it just, got really freer and better. And then, of course, the outside life moved too, because then I really said, okay, I want to help other people get there, right? Because it took me probably 20 years. And it was worth it, right? Like, if I do it again and it takes me 20 years, it's fine too. But I was really getting inspired of helping people getting there faster than 20 years, more than 10 years. Right. Because I saw that it was really in one session, right? There's transformation happening in every session. And I always say also, the client does the work. I am guiding. So that's what I need. But No.
So, okay, I don't want to. So you're growing. You're experiencing growth internally, and this is becoming. It's a result of your findings about subconscious involvement, and so. But now going back to your story, you're here in the U.S. and then Are you doing this professionally at that point, or did all of this growth or your discovery start happening like before the professional development? And then you said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to become a doctor at this. Is that how it developed?
No, going to med school was before that, or there were bits and pieces. I did some, but it was like one session, right? And then it would change, but then I think that was also enough. I couldn't take enough for that. And then over the years, as I looked back, I was like, every time I did that, that was actually, like, because it can also be overwhelming. Like sometimes that was really also overwhelming, what I started feeling inside and what I started, what started to transform. So after I had graduated from med school, that's when I started thinking, you know what? I wanna work in healing, right? Because I actually was really not sure. And then I was like, no, I want to help people because this is really like, I see that it makes a difference. And then I started hypnotherapy, and that then, because it's also subconscious, right? That really showed me that. I mean, I started working before, and then I trained as a hypnotherapist.
So that was the question that I was thinking. It was like, okay, you learned, traditional medicine, traditional Western medicine. You learned that. And so you're establishing yourself, which is not easy, by the way, right? Everybody knows that, like, you're becoming a doctor, and it's like a very hard process. It's a barrier to entry. But then, you've got that, you're checking that box off, and you're like, wait a second, there's something more powerful, there's something more effective. And I felt the effects, and then of course now you want to share those effects, and you want to now do for others what you are feeling, hence the needle moving. So you're like, that is what's really making a difference. It's really, we like to say, move the ball down the field.
Yeah.
At least same thing though. Move the needle, move the ball, all of that stuff, right? Like, so you're feeling this progress, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to get into hypnotherapy. And then so when was, so how far after medical school did you make that jump, or did you make that commitment?
So that was a few years after, because then, so I came to the States after I had won, it was $100,000 at the time on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And that was my ticket.
That's such a just a unique addition to the story. So you went on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You got a little cash.
Yep.
All right.
And then I came here and I started acting. So that was something I think I was drawn to, because it's also, oh, sorry, I can't hear you now.
Oh, all right. Forgive me. That's a little delay in my camera. You're fine.
Move. Yeah. So can you hear me now? Can I hear you? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
yes. I can hear you.
No, and then it's raining outside now, so I got a little distracted. So, I came here to study acting. That was always a dream of mine also. I think also because it's about emotional expression, right? And I always say these two things are actually very close, like what I'm doing now and acting. And then after acting conservatory, it was still a few years. I still did some other jobs. And then I started, it's just after I felt the needle has moved with some subconscious work, I was like, okay, let me just start. And I remember February 2017, I opened my business. It was emotional healing at the time, Emotional Healing Fischer. And I was an MD then already, but I didn't work as a doctor, right? So I also, for full transparency, I always say I don't work as a doctor. I actually just started working in combination with a psychiatrist, where we really collaborate. And that's amazing. Like, so I'm back actually, right? In a different way. But February 2017, I opened it, and then it really started, it started growing, and I excited about it. But then then there were like, on the one hand, I wanted to also learn more tools. I feel like I could help people, but then I felt like, I want to be able to help better and learn really more, and also have a certificate in this, right? And then the course with Marissa Peer. And then I started incorporating that. And now I work really I worked with another method before that is from Sultrim Alione, or Alione in English. I don't know how you pronounce it correctly. But she has a really powerful method that she brought back to the States from Tibetan nuns. And that's also working with the subconscious. So now I'm basically, I really feel like I stick to the model that I learned with Marissa Peer, but then it doesn't always go, as always. So I just work with and use different methods. But I used the red line through a red thing from her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what does it look like? What does the process look like? Because I'm curious. I've never done it. I don't know if you're like, I don't know, using lasers or you're swinging a watch back and forth. I'm completely ignorant. I have no idea. So say I come and then you begin treatment. What does it involve?
So I just want to say, because now when you ask that, something else came back when you said, we go to the subconscious. Yes. And so what is really the healing here is the healing power of words, because we go to the subconscious, we go to those scenes that created that belief that is not helping you right now. And we let express that younger self, that inner child, we let that express what it really wanted to express, but couldn't, right? There was no space or, they didn't dare, what the case might have been. And now to your question. So it works like this. Often people get a consultation where we just, they want to know exactly what you are asking now, or more or less. And then they tell me a little bit about themselves, whatever they are ready to tell me at that point. Of course, everything is totally confidential. And then when they decide to work with me, they get an intake form with 15 questions, where I always say, if I want to work on an issue, I fill out that intake form towards that issue, because that just filling it out helps me so much, because those questions are amazing and they're so awareness building. And then you get a recording, an 8-minute recording from me, where you get induced into hypnosis, right? So in those 8 minutes, you can really feel. I always say, listen to it and tell me how you felt afterwards. And I also do that because a lot of people think, it's like some voodoo or some, hypnotherapy is like, and it's really just being more relaxed. I mean, if you meditate, meditation, the feeling, then you know it, right? So basically, your consciousness is awake in the session, but we are just focusing on your subconscious, on your body, and we are taking the wisdom out of there, the intelligence. We can call it, some people call it intuition, right? I mean, we can discuss those words, but we're not here for that. But yeah, and then the session is 3 hours long, so that you get in advance. I get the intake back, you filled it out. And then, if I have any questions, I prepare with the intake. And if I have any questions, I would follow up and you would clarify. And then in the session, it's a 3-hour session. So the first half hour, we are still going to talk about what we're going to work on. Because as soon as we start the process, right, and then filling out the intake, the ball starts rolling inside, right? So what you told me in the consultation could be already so different, even if the session is just 1 week afterwards, right? Because as soon as you become gain new awareness of something, it's already transforming, right? So then we talk half an hour again, and we try to find the deepest conscious understanding, or if there's more than one issue, the deepest common conscious denominator of the issue. And then we go in with that, right? So we would go in, why can't I speak up? Or why do I feel like I can't be in the present moment? I always need to flee, right? Usually I go in with 1 or 2 questions. So we go in and we ask that question. And the subconscious usually comes up with scenes. Like we usually try to get 3 scenes. I say, the scenes come up with as many senses as possible, involve as many senses as possible. But one sense is good, right? Some people can only feel the scene. That's good enough. Some people can see, hear, feel. Some can even smell the scene, right? So it's really like the more senses, the better. But yeah, we work with those scenes. So if I say, why can't I be in the present moment, right? And then a scene comes up where I'm put down. I'm 5 years old and I'm put down for spilling a glass of milk while I was crossing from the kitchen in the living room or something. In that moment, right, I could have felt, oh my God, they told me I'm not good for anything now because I spilled that glass of milk, right? Whereas anyone could spill a glass of milk, right? I mean, it happened to all, right? Then really letting that 5-year-old say all that, right? Whoever made me feel a certain way, consciously, subconsciously, often people do it intentionally well-meaning, right? Or they have been treated like that, so they pass it on. And that's where also the cycle breaking comes in, right? Because you break the cycle. You're not going to do that to your next generation anymore, right?
Right.
And so that 5-year-old me could say, you know what, I got really hurt by that. After you said that to me, I felt I was not good for anything, and that informed me, right? Then I will talk differently, I will walk differently, and I will be clumsy, right? It's like, because I'm telling my body basically, oh, you're not like, you can't do anything, you clumsy, right? But now I know I internalized your insecurity or you putting me down. Why does anyone need to put anyone down, right? Once you give that back, or you just speak out your truth, right? Words are so powerful. Then you can say, okay, I don't believe that anymore, right? I know it was you.
I have one question here. So you said go in. You said you asked the couple of intake questions, and then you said go in. So I'm curious, like, what does that mean to go in? Like, how do you cross in? Like, how does that work? Or how do you prepare?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, that was not specific enough of me to say. So that's exactly that induction that I sent a recording for 8 minutes just for you to get used to it. In the session, it takes a little longer than 8 minutes, but not much actually, but we're going into the subconscious. So you're really connected with your own subconscious and you're acting and speaking from there.
Right. Okay. So, And so, okay. And so you mentioned that this is rapid. And when you say rapid, I was curious as to like what exactly is rapid. You're saying that you can gain advantages or you can gain progress from just a single session.
Yeah.
Each session is as rapid as 3 hours, which is, for internal growth or internal like healing. Yeah, that's fast. And so that's and now forgive me, I'm just like doing like math here on like what a session looks like. And so it's a couple of questions, and then it's like the 8 minutes to kind of cross our consciousness or subconscious, kind of go from the consciousness to the subconscious, or allow the room for the subconscious to surface. And then you go into these narratives that people have around maybe trauma, maybe not trauma. Am I right? It's not. I mean, it's typically trauma, but it could be other things. And then I've always been curious as to like how a person, because for myself, when I visit these narratives in my mind, typically they're much more visual. I'm a lot more visual person. When it comes to like kind of embracing some of this type of material that you're referencing, or when I have it, I'm very inexperienced, but I'm just saying it's cinematic, if you will. So it's very visual, and I've always been like jealous of people that can embrace the other senses when it comes to these types of things. Like, I can smell this and I can feel that. I'm like, wow, like that's pretty cool. So I've got another question. When you have somebody that's suffering from SUDS, or there's substance use disorder, it's typically, we know the problem, right? So do you just do you just go around like that element and try to extract the trauma or get into the deep rooted cause? Do you just try to implement elements of change to get them past the behavior, right? So if you're at a fork in the road and you can either go to the past of that 5-year-old that is suffering, or do you say, let's change the behavior and start moving towards eliminating the use and going into the liquor store and calling the drug dealer? Like, if you're at that fork in the road, what do you do?
It's actually both. But definitely the going back to the root. So, and also coming back to your question before, like rapid means, Marissa really says that so well. She said, often people that had a hard childhood are then as adults told that now, because they had such a hard childhood, they need to be in therapy for their entire lives. And what fairness is that, or what, that they had a hard childhood already and now you're punishing them in their adulthood with lifelong therapy, right? So she said that really, so as a rapid, meaning really every session, every 3-hour session is a transformation, because you go right to the root. And to the fourth, it's really like, I do believe that, and there are other schools, and I think that's great, right? There's really deep psychology to behavioral, and I think they all have their place. But we go back to the root, right? Some people think that might be re-traumatizing, but we believe that if you don't go back and actually address it where it's coming from, and it might be re-traumatizing for a second, right? But we are really reframing it. We are not staying in the victimhood. Oh, this happened to me. And we might start with that. We might say, that made me feel really sad. That made me feel really like a loser. That made me feel so alone. But now I can see it was actually you, right? You shouldn't have treated me like that in the first place, right? And we are really changing that narrative, because I always say we can't go back in time and change what happened to you, but you survived it physically, right? So what we just need to work on is actually the belief that scene gave you about yourself. And we can change that through hypnotherapy. We don't need to go back in time and change what happened. But because the thing is really that trauma usually persists, or issues persist, if you can't talk about it, right? Mm-hmm. No matter what happens in your childhood and somebody's there and says, you know what, how are you feeling now? Come here, lean on my shoulder, let's talk about it. Let's give you what you need to get over this. This was really terrible, right? If we have someone around that 5-year-old when something happens, then that scene will never come up, right? But the scene comes up now because we didn't have anyone around that said all that held space, right? So we are creating that inside, and that changes the 5-year-old inside of me, right? And I have my 5-year-old inside of me. I have my 7-year-old inside of me. I have all the younger versions inside of me. So if I heal those inner younger versions, then that has a ripple effect from when I was 5 to now. It can't be different, right?
Yeah, that's the power. What you mentioned about the power in words and reframing is something I do often, and I feel that it's an underestimated ability that we have, that we can have, and I really appreciate that you're guiding people to do that, because it's something I firmly believe in myself. Is once I started perceiving my past as almost like a superpower, or almost like a record of my resilience, rather than proof that I'm damned to be a certain way. Things changed really fast. Yeah. And so that's just an amazing, it's such an amazing mission that you have to do that, and helping people to realize these, to realize that when you reframe something, there's a lot of power in that. And it may start with just saying it different. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, it's really just expressing what was never expressed, right? Because so often we are in scenes where we don't say anything because we don't dare to say it, or we are over, right? Even as adults, often it adds, and then it's a fight between a couple, a friendship or whatever. And then we realize, because they didn't say anything there and not there, they held it in, and then it exploded, right? So it needs to be said, right? Like, emotions need to be expressed, right? I mean, in safe ways, of course, right? Otherwise it stays inside and it manifests, and often in some tension, in some dis-ease, right? And then it manifests in really illness or disease, right? But what you said about the fork before, it's really both, because then after the reframe in the session, you're going to get a recording, and that's also part of the session, where the new things that now can be planted in your subconscious, because when we reframe and we give up the old beliefs, then we can plant new beliefs, right? And then we can affirm those new behaviors also. I'm waking up and I can be in the present. I feel myself in the present moment, right? I'm not thinking about the past or the future. I'm not beating the knot. I actually don't use the knot, sorry. So because the knot doesn't translate into the subconscious, right? But I'm feeling so free. I'm feeling so good in my body, right? I'm in the present moment. I can really sense everything around me. Whatever the affirmations for the future would be that my ideal self would have, right? That transformed the issue that I've had.
So you said that. What did you say about not? Not doesn't.
The not, right? I mean, if I tell you now, do not think about a pink elephant, you think a pink elephant, right? So the subconscious doesn't take the not. That's a conscious way of thinking. So if I say don't fall, I would never say to my kids, don't fall. Because then, I mean, I'm basically telling them to fall, right? So
right.
We usually positive.
I want to say it back to you so I say it correctly.
Yeah.
So when you tell the subconscious to not do something, or you said the subconscious is not able. How did you say it? I'm so sorry. I wanted to get it right.
I didn't say it much better. I'm happy you understood it because I don't know if I have the best words, but the subconscious can't translate or can't take in the not, right? The not is a word we integrate in our brain, right? Our brain knows what not means. But the subconscious is in pictures, right? Is in feelings, right? So there's maybe this feeling associated or this picture, right? And you can't put a not in a picture. So if I say don't think,
yes,
and you see a pink elephant, right? So you want to really not use not. Like
yes, that you can't put not in a picture. I think that was the best. Yeah. You can't put not in a picture. Yeah. It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
You can't. It's so hard to not use the word not when you're trying to explain this. It's very very difficult to do.
It's actually the same. Like that just came to me now. Where you've heard that before, right? Worrying is not love, and so many parents say, "Oh, I worry so much about you because I love you so much." I don't believe worry is love, because worrying is, again, creating pictures in your head that you don't want to happen, right, for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's just energizing that, right? So,
yeah. And there's a good example of that, and I've heard it before. Do you ride motorcycles by any chance?
I don't.
No. So
ride a car. I mean.
Oh, okay. It's overrated. And I think you're in New York, right?
Yeah.
So that New York is one of those places you don't need a car. I'm in Florida. You definitely you need a car, or it'd be very hard to not have a car. Nonetheless, okay. So if you're on a motorcycle, they tell you they say, like in the test, they say you see something, you see a pothole, or you see a cat or a dog running at you. What do? And it gives you a list of options, and it's like, look at it, point at it, all this stuff. But the correct thing to do is to look past it. Because when you look at it, it distracts you and it pulls you towards it, right? So the acknowledging it with your sight, and so I'm getting to my point here about the subconscious being linked to this, is that by acknowledging it with your actual sight here in the three-dimensional world, you go right towards it. You go right towards it. Yeah. So when you're visualizing it in your subconscious, that's what you're doing. You're steering right towards it. You're saying, "Oh, I can't not do this," and then all of a sudden you see the visual and you see the narrative, and you go right to it. You go right to it. So the best course of action, I think, is look right through it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Amazing. And also, right, especially with addiction, right, with other issues too, but they say, don't drink, don't do it, don't do drugs, right? Like even the no drugs movement, right? Don't do drugs. Like, again,
right.
Drugs, you're talking about drugs, you're visualizing that, right? So in the recording, then we would just see in the session what feels best, or what do you want to do instead, right? Because we can't just a lot of people come and say, oh, I just want to get rid of that. Yeah, but there's nothing you can just get rid of because it has a lot of energy. Because look how much time and energy it has gotten in your life. It's such a big part of your body and your life. So there's a lot of energy. So that energy can't just be deleted and destroyed, fortunately, right? But it can be transformed. So what do you want to do with that, right? So with the recordings for any substance use, I would definitely then say, you feel free, you feel so good in your body, you feel whole, right? You basically, not usually saying that, but I'm saying that now here, you don't need anything that fills you because you feel whole inside, right? So you basically, often the opposite is not what we think the opposite is, because not doing it is not the opposite often, right? Because the not is not translated, right? So it's really often that is a big part of the healing, to realize what is actually the opposite of what I want, like of what I have now. What do I actually want, right? Because often people just come and say, I don't want this anymore. Okay, but what is the opposite? Or what is what you want, right? Mm-hmm. So that already creates new pictures, right? And with addiction, then I feel whole. I feel like, I want to do this or that, right? So then we integrate things that you want to do instead, right? That you want to now invest your energy in. And once it is reframed, then that energy can also flow there, right? Because it is transformed.
Right. Yeah, that's when I tell, because full transparency, I'm an addict. Moderation doesn't exist for me. It hasn't. And I think that's it's a characteristic of a lot of addicts. And I'm like, well, here's the deal. I'll tell people in good faith that like moderation isn't in the cards for you. Mm-hmm. So you might as well take that energy that you have and pour it into something that's not selfish and not that's valuable, something that's that other people can appreciate. Is something that is overall that you could consider good. And there's a whole lot of words here that we can use to describe the interchanged focus, right? So take the new focus that replaces the focus of the addictive behavior linked to a substance. So when I say this, when I tell a lot of addicts or people that are like struggling to remain sober, I'm like, you got to find something to aim at. You've got to find something that either gives you a challenge or it takes up your mental energy. It takes up your either physical energy, something. It's just like you have to find a home for that, right? Because if you have too much time without something, like you mentioned, something to replace it. If you don't have that, you're going to default back to what you did before. You're going to default back to substance abuse. You're just going to go back to those old habits and those old ways. And so I'm a very firm believer. And like you said, like you need something to replace it. You've got to find something to make you whole. And so too many times I think that, you can't fix the addictive nature. So you might as well get addicted to something cool or something that like people say, oh, wow, that's really great that you volunteer your time or you work hard on your business or you read that many books in a year or, you can run 10 miles, 15, like whatever it is, there's got to be something has to take up that energy because it's a recipe for disaster when you don't have a home for that energy. And that's why it's very exciting to hear you say that, like that you work hard at giving new options and new directions. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And I usually ask the client, what would that be? Right. And then you transform it, heal that part. And then what do you want to transform that energy into? Right.
Right. It's so in your experience, if somebody is, say you've addressed a bit of the trauma in the past and then now, how do you discover what they may or may not be interested in or what the next the next fix, if you will. Sorry, I'm talking about the
Yeah.
name of the. But like, how do you gain insight? How do you gain insight into what maybe what they should do next?
I mean, usually I would say often people come with something already, or in the process they discover something, you know, they say, oh, I did this and this before and I was always interested in that, but never dared to do it or whatever, you know. So that usually comes up in the process for them. I never actually needed to, you know, bring something up. I might have brought examples up just to jumpstart their, you know,
I see.
ideas or even make them understand what I mean. But there was never a lack of people not coming up with anything, really. I mean, often it can be like, you know, we transform that, like we make that whole, right? We heal that, and then we give that energy a new job, and that job is self-love and confidence, right? It could be so abstract as that, right? And that also leads into a different space, right? And leads you to act differently and to do different things. So it could be as abstract as this at first, because then.
So Karolina, are you able to do this remotely? Or like, do you need to be in the same room, or can you do it?
No, I can do it like you and I are sitting now. Yeah, I actually have always done it like that. And then I had an office for a while, and then COVID came, and then remote, because it works so well. And I always had clients from different states. So I love working remote, and it really works. Yeah.
Nice. Oh, that is fantastic. And so tell us about what you're doing now. Like, what is the structure? Like, how do people get a hold of you? And then like, what does the process look like to start working with you?
So I have my website and my Google website, and I have an Instagram page. And I think most people still find me through Google, and then they get directed to my website. And then it's often a first consultation. Some people, I'm always a little surprised. But they usually have known someone that did hypnotherapy or RTT before. They just book without a consultation. Yeah, you just book on my page, and if you book a session, then I'll send you the intake and everything, and I get in touch with you. And that's the process. And then I always follow up, right? And then I have a program now to work with me for 6 months, and you get one session per month, a 1 3-hour session. So
nice.
Yeah, many ways, but that's
right.
I'm pretty flexible, actually, and And
so I'm gonna have that all lined up for everybody, like in print. Once we get up and live here. But okay, so then what? And then what do you have anything different? I think you just mentioned a 6-month program. Is that the newest edition as far as what you're offering?
Because I was always very much on the thing, no, I want people to be self-empowered. And that's still my main goal, right? Emotional self-empowerment is like really this keyword. But then my marketing manager actually told me, and some people did, they did like a session almost once a month, right? And then she was like, you could actually offer a program where they get off, like you pay less if you sign up, and if you come 6 months. And it really works well, because I still feel like they don't need me, right? Because I always want to say, look, I'm not trying to, I think that was maybe my issue, that I felt like I need to always show that I'm not trying to sell a codependency here, right? But now I know.
Right.
Anyways, right? But in 6 months, you can definitely see a beautiful growth. I mean, again, every session is a transformation, and you can see growth, right? But that's the newest edition, and it's beautiful to see. Yeah.
So, Karolina, that I really appreciate that approach, and you had mentioned it earlier in the episode. You were talking about you like shackle adults to therapy because of their trauma as a child. And honestly, I think a lot of people, like you go to the chiropractor, they say the same thing every time. And forgive me, all you chiropractors out there, I'm not trying to beat you up here, but it's always like, oh, wow, you are messed up. You're going to have to see me 3 times next week and 3 times the week after. And then we'll go down to 2. And then I'm like, man, that just sounds like a lot of stuff. And so it's refreshing to hear you say, like, hey, like it doesn't have to be that intensive. It doesn't have to be that, doesn't require that much labor, and you can get real results very rapid, right?
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Well, that is, I'm super excited. So many cool things that we went over and really relevant stuff that I didn't foresee coming and didn't foresee us talking about. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. And so that's going to be the end of the episode here on The Next Fix, guys. Karolina, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Until the next one, guys.
My absolute pleasure.